I will have to say the Great Pumpkin has come together quite nicely. Just a little over a year here in the garage, and you see what we see. Now, you guys know what we started with. Well, this is one heck of a transformation. And boy, I'll tell you what, this car's looking really super sharp. Got all the chrome bits on the outside, on the home stretch of a final assembly. Even got the front bumper all mounted up on here. Looking really nice. Little details put it together. We're missing something really big. It goes right about here. That's what we're going to try to conquer today. We're finally going to throw the vinyl top on the Great Pumpkin. Now, in preparation to the vinyl top, we've got some smudges and some crud. I went ahead and scuffed all this down the time when I was wet sanding and color sanding and buffing. So this is all scuffed, but I need to clean this. I got some rubbing alcohol. We're going to wipe the whole thing down and get all the dirt and dust off. It's not too bad, but it's in preparation for our adhesive to stick. Basically, it's just contact cement. It sprays on. I'll show you what product I'm using here in just a minute, but I'm going to get this wiped down. We're going to mask off the areas we don't want that adhesive on. Like, look at the paint. I don't want that crap. So we're going to mask off basically the entire car. I've watched several videos of people doing vinyl tops and they don't mask anything off. Now, you know that I'm not the best at doing that, but in this situation here, the last thing I want to do is have it malfunction or screw up and mess up the paint on the car. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to get this thing all masked off, wiped down, then we'll get to putting the vinyl top on the GTO, actually on the Great Pumpkin. Car's masked off. I'm going to show you some more on that here in just a second. But what we have here, this is I guess your spray gun, obviously a 2.0 tip. It should spray this adhesive pretty good. I'm going to find out. This is this is DAT brand. This is what seems to be recommended the most for this. I bought a whole gallon because I need a whole lot more of that for other projects we're going to do later on. A couple new razor blades. Any place where I'm going to put my seam where the vinyl is at, I found this here. Did some testing on it. It seems to be pretty durable. Still a contact cement. Then I have a heat gun in case we need it to stretch any of the corners, but I don't know if we're going to need that or not. Now back to the car. Got it all covered up. Probably overkill for the situation. But what you want to do first is find the center line of the roof. That's what I've marked right here on the front and the back window openings. Then what I've done, then there's the seam that goes on the roof of the car. Well, on this car, I measured on that top that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the one from Ames. It's sitting there on the roof of the GTO out there in the sun, baking, to make it real pliable for me. But the seam to seam is 38 inches. So then I measured here from our center point over to here, 19 inches, and same on that side. So I know when I put the seam, it should land right here on this line. And I did the same thing here on the rear of the car. Find your center point of the roof, measured over 19 inches. And I just made a little mark. That's all I've got. The roof's all been wiped down. Looks kind of smudgy still, but that's how it happens. But I think we're going to be just fine. We'll go ahead, and what I'll do is now we're going to grab the roof and get it centered up on the car here. And I got those really big magnets I'm going to put in place and get it where I want it to be. We're going to flip up to one side and glue it and see how that goes. All right, I drug the top in here. Now you'll see a couple of these magnets because I'm going to do this video called Fake It Till I Make It. I've never done a vinyl top before. I've watched some videos, I've asked some questions, and I've inquired some people who've done some before for a little bit of insight, and I really still have no clue. But so this may be epic fail for us, or this may be a great job. I guess we're going to find out. But to sum it up, I told you where I had the mark set. Now I've actually lined up the seams right on top of those little marks. They're nice and straight. So the next thing would be then is we're going to secure like one half this cover here, or the top. Then we're going to flip it over to the other side and start to glue. And what we're going to do is glue from the center line all the way here to the seam and get that fitted and make sure I like that. And once that side's good, reverse it over there to the driver's side. Now the thing about it though, there's a seam here from when they put this top together. Even the factory cars had a seam. That line needs to be nice and straight, not wavy as it goes back. So I'm going to focus on getting a nice center point, get it pulled just snug, and then make sure that line is nice straight front to rear, and then jump over the other side. So hopefully this is going to work. We're going to find out. I went ahead and put magnets all down the complete center line. Got these here for, I said, position right above where those marks rest. So it actually works good. Pulled them just a little snug, just past to put a little tension on it. And I still have a little bit of this going on here, but as I rub my hand across it, it takes the shape pretty easily. Stuff to sit out in the sun is pretty pliable, but you can tell it still has some wrinkles in it. So hope for the best here, but I think what we're going to do now, I'm going to pop these two magnets on the passenger side here. I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to start gluing. We're going to glue to right about where this seam is at, and then we're going to stop and jump to the other side. Okay, paint gun loaded. You run a whole lot more air pressure when painting this stuff, or I guess say painting, but gluing. But here's our center line here. I'm going to try to get, you have to do both surfaces, contact cement. I'm going to hit the roof, do a little bit of that, and maybe roll it over. I really have no idea. We're going to give it a shot here. So let's give that a couple minutes to dry, and we'll flip it over. Right. Now this has been dry. It's actually almost like dry to the touch is what it says. So it's a little warm today, so grab that back there. We're just going to kind of unroll this, kind of how we rolled it up. We'll do this here. I'll probably block the camera, but that's okay. It's the cheap seats. Yeah. Keep going. Okay, we're going to flip this thing all the way over now. Verifying we're on our mark. It looks good. I'm going to work on getting all the wrinkles out of this thing. Okay. So you do a confidence and a smile, and they'll believe you know what you're doing. So you just can remember to smile here. This side is down. Shoot, I'll take these bad boys off without smashing my hands. Here it's probably just not enough. Yeah. So we'll get the glue gun. Come on now. That set for a little bit, and we'll pull that back over. Go ahead and redo that seam here. Now, kind of keeping some tension on this. And I'm hoping that's a lot better. As long as this seam is straight now. Well, you can see it on the camera. I don't know if you can or not. That looks good. Hey, the fake it till you make it technique is working. Now I need to take the other side. We're going to flip it this way and do the same thing. So I'll just go ahead and knock that out. And then I'll show you how the heck we plan on getting this all shaped out right. Now we flip the side over here. Look at this nice clean line. It's actually pulled up really good. So the flipping it in the middle should work really nice. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing. Coat the whole side and the vinyl top. And we're going to flip it back over and stick it down. So far, I think we're going to be maybe okay. So I'll go ahead and get this painted with some glue and make it happen. Now, center section of the roof is done. The concern is here, as long as I can get that seam straight, I was going to call that good. Seam is really straight. Now, there's a few little wrinkles still. I'm kind of hoping it'll relax when it gets some more time. I tried to pull that tight, but it doesn't look... Of course, you can see it in the camera a lot better than you can see it in person, but you can really see there's a couple little deviations still. So I'm not sure if that's just because it just needs to relax some more first, but we'll keep on working on it. I'm going to start doing here on the sides and do the sail panel next. Now, practice makes perfect. I did the passenger side first, learned exactly how not to do it. Now we're on the driver's side. I'm going to try to show you what I learned. It may make it a lot less painless and make your life a little easier. Because if I showed you that side, you'd probably quit before you started. What we're going to do, though, what I learned, of course, gluing to the seam was good. Now we're going to glue it here to stop right about here at that body line, and then kind of glue the top to this point here. So it's a small strip. That's pretty easy. And once that's good, then we'll go ahead and glue all the way up to the top of the drip rail channel. Don't do the drip rail yet. That's going to kick your butt. But then once you do to that point though here, then we'll do the whole sail panel. When you go do the sail panel, you just got to stretch the crap out of that thing. If not, you get a bunch of wrinkles all through here, right here in the middle I learned. So I'm going to go ahead and get a layer of glue on and glue this part here. Then I'll come back when I glue this and I'll show you how to stretch that. So I'll go ahead and get this piece set and then we'll come back to it. Now, like I said, it's a pretty warm day today. This glue is actually popping off pretty quick. I'm gonna go ahead and start pulling this over. I'm gonna do the front edge here, just the top portion. I'm gonna drop it. Do the edge here to the drip rail on the front. And then here's the part I learned the hard way. Take your hands and literally, the left hand and right hand, I'm gonna try to stretch it out and down at the same time. And then pull it down here to the quarter panel. And I tell you, it's not fun. It's tough. If not, you get a bunch of wrinkles in it, and it doesn't look right. Your hand, so but you guys get the idea. Literally pull the crap out of this and slowly work it down. I had to put the camera down, but this is critical, I guess, time wise, but it's just you got to keep pulling it, stretching it, working. This is probably one of the more challenging parts. The drip rail is not so bad. Around the windows I don't feel it's gonna be bad at all. I'll trim this back about a 1/2 inch or so. Now I got a little paintbrush and I'll glue both sides and we'll clamp it around there. What we're working on next now is the drip rail. I gotta flip this up. I'm gonna trim this back some so it flexes a little easier. And I actually reach around that. I got that paint stick here. I'm gonna use that to actually tuck that into the channel, but I gotta get it all glued first. So I'm gonna get this cut and I'll bring it back. Now this is the drip rail. Now what I'm doing, I'm gonna trim this back some, makes it a little more flexible. And that still needs to be tucked down quite a bit, so don't be cutting it up here. I'm gonna come here just below where the drip rail is. You can see it hanging out here. I'm gonna cut it just a 1/8 inch or so below that. That should be enough material that I learned on the other side to keep things working pretty good. So I wanted to get you in for that part just because it's kind of important to know. Now I'm going to use the paintbrush. You can get this stuff in here a little more gooder or exactly where you want it, because now I've trimmed it back, spraying it, I'm going to get it where I don't want it. So I'm going to go ahead and get the drip rail and the inside here really good. And once I get everything glued and let it sit, we'll go ahead and stretch it over in place. Let me just see that the paintbrush gets you a little more control where it goes. The downside is it goes on a little thicker because it takes a little longer to dry. So I'll get this all painted and I'll show you how to tuck that drip rail in there then. All right, now the drip rail, I got a piece of wood kind of round the corners just a little bit, it's a little stir stick, but let's work on tucking this thing in there. That's all you have to really do. Get it fed in and it actually pulls everything pretty tight. Get you a nice workout too today. Fortunately, it's not 110 degrees like it has been here recently, so it's not so bad out here. Should work for that. Now I got a clamp I'm going to put on this so it sits for a bit. So. Alright, A-pillar time. Now this is similar to the back around the sail panel. You got to pull it kind of snug to get the wrinkles out of up here. Now there's a piece of factory trim, or I guess it's actually the drip rail. The factory tucks the top underneath that. My car here with a Great Pumpkin has that off. Now sometimes you do the same thing if the drip rail is still screwed on, you tuck it on the top side, but mine's not, so we're going to be able to put that on the back here. I'm going to glue the whole thing with the glue, set it, and then we'll trim on each side. Got it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, hopefully I got all the glue in the right spot. This is a little easier than the sail panel. Okay, get that wrinkle out here. Keep the other hand pulling this down as you work it. It seems to work pretty good. There you go. Alright, cool. I'm gonna start working on trimming this thing all out, but that's as simple as cutting about a 1/4 inch in on the inside. And we'll tuck that in the window channels, around all the window channels. Same thing, about a 1/4 inch just on the side of this seam. We can screw that panel on. All right, making our way back here to the back. Last but not least, this rear section. This is the part that I guess I'm left scratching my head a little bit, but the factory seam, they put it in this top. You can see the side part here goes underneath, and they fold the top over itself, so you have a nice seam this way, but it's super tight and close. Now, I'm going to try to replicate the same thing. My piece here on the side is going to be on the bottom. I'm going to take the material, fold it back on itself, and I'm going to follow this line until it actually hits the body seam. I highlighted here with a marker so I can keep tabs on that. But we get the idea. Then what I'll do then is I'll glue this seam super tight, let it dry, and then what we'll do, just like we've done the rest of the top, glue this down in the same fashion, the contact adhesive and everything, and see how that goes. But I want to replicate this seam first, but I know where it needs to be. What I've done, I'll put the 3 down at that end, pulled it, put 3 here in the middle, pulled it, and then I'll keep some tension on it, and I'll set the last one here, then we'll glue the ends, and hopefully that works. Now, what I've done, I determined here's where my line is going to be. This is a 3/4 inch wide seam, so what I'm going to do is now I've already folded clearly more than 3/4 of an inch. So I made a little tiny mark, little tiny mark. That's where I want to cut it at. That way when the layers are all glued together, it should look the same as what's on the roof. At least that's how it's playing out in my head. Now, whether that works or not, I have no idea. I said no one wrote a book on this. I hadn't really found any fantastic videos, so maybe this video is going to help. Some people decided not to do a vinyl top, but I'm hoping this comes out okay. So far it's looking good. I'm not going to give you my score on a 10-point scale because I'm super critical today, but I think overall I'm happy with the results. I know the next one of course is going to get better, but it comes when you're doing this stuff. You got to get the confidence to jump in the deep end every once in a while, try something new. This one actually intimidated me a little bit for a bit, but that's how maybe a lot of you guys see a lot of these projects. But at some point, you just got to jump in, sink or swim, right? So that's what we're doing. I have a plan. We're going to go with it. Now that should fold over, like leave a nice little 3/4 inch seam. I guess on that vinyl glue, I'm going to go ahead and glue that and just let it sit here for 20 or 30 minutes with these magnets, and that should really pull that super tight, that seam. And like I said, I'm hoping it'll replicate what I have up here. So that's how I'm going to get that behind the scenes look. So I'll go get the other side prep, get these glued, and let it sit. And see how it looks. Pull the magnets off. It's a pretty tight seam. I'm not sure if I can get any better than that. So what we're going to do next, now the same as we did with the rest of the roof, I'm going to put this up, put our spray-on contact cement on the, I guess, body color part. But right here where it's going to be vinyl to vinyl, I'm going to use that special vinyl glue and do just these seams. That'll keep it really sealed up and should bond. Then when I go to put it together, I think I'll take the piece of wood and put my magnets on it and see if that'll help get a little tighter seam and keep it nice and level. So just like everything else on the roof, I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with our contact cement, lay it in place, trim it down, and it should be pretty much done. That's pretty cool. All right, there we go. I hope this is the last time I gotta do this glue stuff. It's not been bad, but I'll tell you, it's not my favorite. I'm gonna go ahead and hit down here. One of the things I've noticed is when I go to cut this out, all those little studs for the trim, it just keeps cutting around those is one of the hardest parts, I think, just getting it to go around them. This adhesive works really good. It's pretty forgiving. You have a little bit of wiggle time, but you have about 3 to 5 minutes for it to flash off or set up enough that you can go ahead and bond the two together. And it says like 80% coverage is a strong bond, but on any edges, go ahead and do like full 100% coverage. I actually read the directions. Got this thing cut out. I'm gonna tell you right now, buy some super good, high quality or stock and razor blades. That was a hammer blades. They got pretty rough, I'll tell you. But unfortunately, it hides under the trim, like my son said, so I had to get over it. But note to self: get some good blades. You can go ahead and do now the ends here. But use the contact cement, regular stuff here. But this is really good vinyl contact cement. So this should actually fuse the vinyl very good together. It doesn't have to be necessarily a watertight seal. I'd like to have a nice strong bond in here, so that's basically what we're going to do then. Get my rag here, got a little too much. idea now, I'm going to use this piece of wood. I hope that my magnets that I have are strong enough. I'm going to start to squeeze some glue out. And that's kind of what I wanted. But this is a contact cement, so actually you need to let it dry for a little bit. Alright, now let that sit, and it looks just like the top. Then I'll clamp it all down real nice. So I'll get the other side going here. And then, I said it twice now, I'm going to be done with this. It looks like we're getting ready to storm outside. So, yes. Our contact cement is dry to the touch. And this stuff requires a little bit of pressure to get it to set. So I'm going to pull this a little bit tight. And I hope, the goal is to get this tucked in here in the corner really good. I'll get some magnets going on it. And these magnets are like your best friend when it comes to this, I've learned. So we've learned a couple things. Good stock and razor blades. And then get these magnets. They are a lifesaver. Okay, now we'll go ahead and stack my piece of wood on here. Have to break it again because that magnet's kind of in the way. Okay, now stack some magnets on there. Now my hopes are this really pulls the seam down tight, but I might be dreaming. Alright, see, now that's going to pull that corner in. And the goal is also my seam will line up right here with that body seam, so kind of pulls everything together. Now, let that sit for a bit. I'll work on cleaning up the mess, get the tape off this. We'll see how good we did. Well, I know this probably wasn't the most exciting video as for how to like I typically do, mostly because I was really focused on trying to figure out how the heck to get this thing done. So I still think it has some good information, gives you great starting points. The do's and the don'ts are definitely in there. Now, like I said, this is going to help get you some familiarity with doing a vinyl top, but let's just call it what it is. On a 10-point scale, being super critical, 8.5, 9. There's some little things that I could do differently. I know I could do better, but overall, feeling really good. These little seams come out real nice. I'm going to put the magnets, I think, on it overnight and really let them sit and squish that thing down, see if I can get them a little bit tighter. But if not, they look pretty good, lined up good. And this guy here, my boy, Scott, helped me out immensely. This wasn't necessarily what I planned on doing today, sort of. But he said, hey, Dad, what you up today? I said, no, I don't know. And we decided to throw this on here. And now it's done. Now we get to work on the rest of the car. Window alignment, interior, headliner. So this is a big milestone, or the last really big project. So I'm just rambling because I'm worn out. I probably got about 6 to 7 hours invested into this thing. But next time I could probably do it a whole lot quicker. But I'll get you some shots here, see how it looks. And of course, any questions, feel free to ask me. And we'll keep plugging away here on the Great Pumpkin. And I hope to see you guys next time.